know that most of what you've seen, read, or heard about Billy the Kid is untrue? My name is Gail Cooper. I'm a medical doctor and forensic psychiatrist. My specialty is murder case consultation for the defense. For 20 years, I've used my expertise to uncover the real Billy the Kid. Researching over 40,000 pages of archival documents and books, I've written the revisionist history. It's shocking, it's liberating, and I've written books demolishing the hoaxes, hijacking the history. My talks will share with you what I've found. Cover-ups, misinformation, and fakery, to use Old West lingo, will bite the dust. This talk debunks evidence for imposter Brushy Bill Roberts surviving the Fort Sumner Billy the Kid death scene as presented in his hoaxes 1955 book, alias Billy the Kid. The information is from my book, Cracking the Billy the Kid Imposter Hoax of Brushy Bill Roberts. For the chapter titled Be He Alive or Be He Dead in Brushy Bill Roberts' 1955 hoax book, alias Billy the Kid, its author, C.L. Sonneshin, and co-author and mastermind, WilliamVMorrison, faked evidence that Brushy, as Billy the Kid, had survived the July 14, 1881 Fort Sumner shooting. But their evidence is just meaningless malarkey by non-historical old-timers and 5 affidavits by non-historical people swearing Brushy was Billy. Sonneshin wrote, "The ones with most deeply rooted doubts about Billy's demise were likely to be real old-timers or people who had known the Lincoln County for a long time." He hid that no actual witnesses to the shooting denied Billy was the victim and that witnesses to the killing were in San Miguel, not Lincoln County. He also hid the July 15, 1881 coroner's jury report identifying Billy's body and up to 200 Fort Sumner townspeople viewing his corpse at their nighttime wake. And he ignored Pat Garrett's description of killing Billy Bonney in his 1882 book, The Authentic Life of Billy the Kid. Sonneshin's evidence was only rumors by mostly unnamed people with no connection to the Fort Sumner shooting. An unnamed woman from Seven Rivers claims Billy ate at her house 3 days after the Garrett shooting. Another unnamed woman in so-called Penasco County, there was no such county in New Mexico Territory, claimed Billy hid there from 1887 to 1889. An unnamed man in the Whipple, Arizona Veterans Hospital heard that Garrett had a plot with Billy to kill a Mexican instead. And Manuel Taylor told someone unnamed that Garrett killed a young cattle detective instead of Billy. A non-historical C.C. McNatt of Alamogordo, described as, quote, in the vicinity of Lincoln when the kid was supposed to have been killed, recalls that settlers there at the time doubted the story of the kid's demise, close quote. In reality, Lincoln was 150 miles from the killing site of Fort Sumner, so its residents had no direct knowledge. And the claim isn't even McNatt's. It's hearsay told him by fantasizing others. Sonneshin added hearsay articles. He claimed that the June 23, 1926 El Paso Herald stated that someone in Alamogordo heard that George Coe didn't believe Billy was killed, and people in Lincoln didn't believe it either. But Sonneshin hid the article's title. It was, "Billy the Kid Alive is Ridiculed by Old-Timers." Sonneshin also hid that its gist was that Billy's killing was historically verified, and Pat Garrett and Fort Sumner residents knew Billy and identified him when, quote, the body lay in state for several hours. Sonneshin also repeated the Tangled Web chapter's 1938 El Paso Herald article titled "Frontiersman Track Reports Kid is Alive," which he mixed up as 1937. He'd already used it to lie that Pawnee Bill knew that Brushy was Billy. Here he used it to lie that Pawnee Bill was searching for Brushy as the shooting's survivor. In reality, the article was about the frontiersman's general search and had nothing to do with Brushy. Sonneshin cited an April of 1933 New Mexico Magazine article by a Wilbur Smith titled "The Amigo of Billy the Kid." It stated that Billy's friend Eugenio Salazar believed he hadn't been killed. That's true, but Eugenio, as an old man, believed that a school teacher who drove from Mexico to meet him was Billy the Kid. It had nothing to do with Brushy, and Eugenio had no direct knowledge of the shooting anyway. Then Sonneshin and Morrison rolled out their 5 affidavits swearing Brushy was Billy the Kid. In reality, they were by non-historical people and mostly written by Morrison. 3 were by people Morrison met when he toured Brushy in April of 1950 in New Mexico and Texas, and 2 were by Brushy's friends. Morrison had already used 2 of these affidavits for his fake evidence packet for the 1950 gubernatorial pardon hearing, where they were ignored because Brushy was an obvious imposter. See Talks 53 and 54 on the pardon hearing linked below. These affidavits, printed in full in Alias Billy the Kid's appendix, will be debunked in a talk of their own. To be noted is that Morrison had tried to get historical people to sign his fake affidavits. First were Sam and Bill Jones from the Seven Rivers, New Mexico family known to Real Billy, as discussed in Talk 61. To be noted is that Billy had been friends with their older brother John, not them. On July 2nd, 1950, Morrison took Brushy to meet them. When Sam and Bill showed Brushy a photograph of Seven Rivers boys, he pretended Marion Turner was himself. The Jones brothers refused to sign Morrison's affidavits, stating correctly that Brushy gave no conclusive proof. Morrison then pressured Sam and Bill Jones. His letters and an unsigned affidavit he wrote for them are in Sonneshin's collected papers. On July 4th, 1950, 2 days after visiting them with Brushy, he wrote to Sam Jones and a nearly identical one to Bill Jones. They show Morrison in full con artist mode. Excerpted to Sam Jones, Morrison wrote, "Although our time was very limited Sunday, we, him and Brushy, certainly enjoyed the visit with all of you. Billy," meaning Brushy, "just keeps talking about it. He was sure glad to be able to talk to you and Mr. Bill Jones. He says that Bill looks like his father." Bill Jones's letter differed only in the first paragraph, stating, It was certainly a pleasure to be able to meet you in person, and Billy has told me about you and your family ever since I have known him. He was most anxious to get to see you. Morrison continued, "We have not been able to find anyone else who knew him in the old days. We certainly need your help to get the pardon. You and your brother are the best we could ever hope to get. I have typed a short form which will serve our purpose." This was the fake affidavit Morrison wrote and enclosed for them to sign. "I hope you can see your way clear to help him. You do not have to say anything about Garrett if you don't want to. I have spent almost 2 years of my time, plus many hundreds of dollars of my own money, in behalf of him. He was a friend of my old family." Morrison built this lie on his descent from Ferdinand Maxwell, Lucien Bonaparte Maxwell's unsuccessful brother, pretending it linked him to Billy Bonney and the famous Fort Sumner Maxwells. "I feel it is my duty to continue for him if I can get the affidavits. The records and evidence are in my files. All I need are affidavits. I am sending a photostatic copies of letters showing that Garrett did not collect the reward on the report he filed with Governor Wallace." This is a lie. Garrett did collect the Billy the Kid reward, and he sent the copy of the coroner's jury report to acting Governor William Rich, not Lew Wallace. Also, that there is no purported coroner's verdict on file in the state of New Mexico. This is a lie. I promised you we would not file a suit in the matter, as there is nothing showing that Garrett killed him. The affidavit is only for purposes of identification of Billy. I believe you know him. Thanking you for this great favor in behalf of Billy, and hoping that I have your affidavit when I get back to El Paso next week. Morrison's enclosed, pre-written, ultimately unsigned, fake affidavit was worth its weight in gold to Brushy, Sonneshan, and himself, if signed. It stated, "This affiant further states that William Henry Roberts, alias William Antrim, alias William Bonney, alias Billy the Kid, alias Brushy Bill Roberts, alias O.L. Roberts, on July 2nd, 1950, while visiting with him here in Carlsbad, New Mexico, that he compared old pictures in his album from the time he was 14 years of age up through the various years to the present time with an old picture in my collection, which pictures show a marked resemblance, that we talked over many things that happened in the old days, that I noticed that he had the same blue eyes, prominent nose, large ears, small feet, small hands with large wrists over which he slipped the handcuffs in the old days. He no longer had the large front teeth, is nearly white-haired, but he still stands straight as he used to stand, and talks and laughs much the same as he always did." Note that Morrison recycled this resemblance formula almost verbatim in the 5 fake affidavits he did get, proving he wrote them too. This affiant further states that to the best of his knowledge, information, and belief, William H. Roberts, alias William H. Antrim, alias William H. Bonney, alias Billy the Kid, alias Brushy Bill Roberts, alias O.L. Roberts, is one and the same person as O.L. Roberts, who visited here in Carlsbad. Note that Morrison also repeated this fake alias list for the 5 fake signed affidavits. Don't miss Morrison's trick of trying to base identity on Brushy's own physical description with added fakery he thought applied to Billy. So listed were blue eyes, prominent nose, Billy had a small nose, large ears, Brushy had big ears, small feet, unknown for Billy, small hands with large wrists over which he slipped handcuffs, an outlaw myth fiction acted out by Brushy, missing buck teeth, a fatal problem since Brushy, then toothless, never had buck teeth, and standing straight. After Brushy's death, Morrison tried unsuccessfully to get an affidavit from the historical George Coe family and failed again. On April 18, 1951, to an Elzit Perry Jr., he wrote, "While talking to Mary Neal a couple of weeks ago, she informed me that you are a grandson of George Coe, who rode with Billy the Kid. You are aware of the fact that we represented a party claiming to be Billy the Kid in an action for pardon on November 15th. It was November 30th, with Governor Mabry. We are still researching on the subject. Mrs. George Cole, El Paso, Texas, stated to me that your grandfather and her husband were friends. She further stated that they knew Billy was not killed by Garrett. I am wondering if Mr. Cole mentioned to you during his lifetime that he had seen Billy the Kid after the purported demise. Of course, this would be only hearsay, but that is the only kind of evidence submitted by opposing parties. This is a lie. There was also no legal evidence offered that Billy the Kid was killed by Garrett. This is a lie. If it is convenient, I would like to talk to you in Ruidoso during my next trip there." 4, alias Billy the Kid, Sonneshan and Morrison were left with only the 5 fake affidavits by non-historical people that Morrison largely wrote. To be noted is that Sonneshan and Morrison hid another signed affidavit created by Morrison for a non-historical Mrs. S.N. Parkinson and signed by her on April 18, 1951. At that early stage of the hoax, Morrison used her to vouch for Brushy's literacy. Repeat, literacy. See Talk 52, link below for that affidavit. So this Parkinson affidavit was concealed when Sonneshan and Morrison switched to pretending Brushy was illiterate. Sonneshan topped off the Be He Alive or Be He Dead chapter with a fake special knowledge bonus by Brushy as related to his affidavit seeking trips with Morrison. When passing Santa Fe's Palace of the Governors, Brushy supposedly told Morrison that he'd been taken there from the Santa Fe jail, quote, "so people could make fun of me." He added, "The governor wouldn't come down to the jail here and talk to me. He forgot how I helped him and wouldn't come down here to talk to me. He thought I was helpless and they were going to hang me." In reality, Brushy parroted his prompt source, though he confabulated being taken to the Palace of the Governors. The source was Billy's Santa Fe jail letter of March 4, 1881, to Lew Wallace. Excerpted, Billy wrote, "I am not treated right by Sherman. He lets every stranger that comes to see me through curiosity in to see me. I expect you have forgotten what you promised me this month 2 years ago, but I have not, and I think you had ought to have come and seen me as I requested you to. I guess they mean to send me up without giving me any show, but they will have a nice time doing it. I am not entirely without friends. Another prompt was a February 10, 1881 Santa Fe, New Mexican article about U.S. Attorney John Sherman taking curiosity seekers to the Santa Fe jail to view Billy. So, for Alias Billy the Kid's Be He Alive or Be He Dead chapter, Sonneshan and Morrison merely faked hearsay and lies as evidence. Still to come were their fake conspiracy theories. The next talk will expose Alias Billy the Kid's 5 fake affidavits swearing that Brushy was Billy the Kid, summarized in the Be He Alive or Be He Dead chapter and reproduced in full in the book's appendix.